Well, good morning everyone, I hope you're all well. As you can see, it's another bright sunny day. Firstly, I'd just like to thank everyone who made the effort to leave some comments and hints and tips about my last video, the LRF fishing at Lowestoft. Some really useful information and pointers there for when I do my next session. As I think I said on the video, it's the first time I've actually done that drop shot in the sea, and yeah, I've got a lot to learn, but thanks to several people who dropped me some comments, I shall go back armed with a bit more information and hopefully a little bit more success. I wasn't a million miles out, probably just a little bit wrong with the timing of the tide, and obviously the conditions on the day weren't the best. But anyway, thank you very much for that. Today I'm going to do something that's been on my to-do list for quite a while now, and that is I'm heading out to the west of the county. In fact, I'll just be going outside of Norfolk, but only by about 5 miles. So it technically still is within my Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, and I'm heading towards Sutton Bridge today. And the plan is I'm going to fish the River Nene. Now, I've brought quite a bit of gear because with the venue I'm heading for today, fingers crossed if I can get in the swim, there's 2 or 3 swims where you can literally fish out the back of your car. So I've brought a range of rods and tackle to cope with the various conditions. I've spoke to John on the phone yesterday, and he gave me a rundown on the sort of baits and stuff I'll be using. So I'll go through that a bit later on once we're there. So what I've decided to do, rather than jump out of Norwich onto the A47, which is very busy at this time of the morning, I'm cutting across country this morning, and the idea is I'll come out somewhere near Swaffham, then I'll have to join the A47. So yeah, once I've joined the A47, I'll head through towards King's Lynn, then jump onto the A17 for a short while to Sutton Bridge, and from there I'll bring you back and show you the route down to where the venue is. Well, welcome back everyone. Just on the A17 now, just a couple of minutes away from Sutton Bridge. The across-country part of the journey was very smooth, hardly any traffic at all. As soon as I joined the A47, heading towards King's Lynn, it was a little bit chunky, but manageable. And as I say, I'm just coming up now to the bridge. Once I get up to the bridge, and we're crossing the actual Nene. Now, just gone low tide, I believe, looking at my phone before I left. So we're hopefully today going to be fishing the tide up and over the top. The high tide is around 2 p.m, so plenty of time. There's a few facilities in this little village here. I think you've got a general store. There's a little pub there. There's a convenience store in front of you here. What we do is we carry on through the village. There's another co-op food store there on the left, so plenty of places where you can get your food and drink. Just up here, there's a hardware shop on your right, where that white car's coming out is where we're going. It's called New Road. What we're going to do is follow this all the way down now. Stay on this new road. So it's quite a way down this road, and we're looking for the next road on the right is called Guy's Head Road. So as we're approaching this light coloured house on the right here, just after that is where we're going to turn. Straight on, I think, is, I believe, a no through road anyway. So the road virtually bends straight round, but it changes from New Road into Guy's Head Road. Literally only a couple of minutes away now. West Bank Road. Now, unfortunately, there is people there already in that main spot. Don't look like they're fishing though. Looks like they've camped there overnight. So, bonus is the actual main spot is still free. So let's get down there and get into position. It's a little bit of a bumpy as you go down, but just take your time. Just to the right there is the slipway where they slip the boats in, and you've got to swim directly in front of you here, but I'm going to go to that one just down, as you can see in front there. At the moment the ground is nice and hard and dry packed. Obviously if you come down here later on in the season when we've had plenty of rain, potentially this could be a bit spongy, so just be a bit careful of that. And what I'm going to do is turn around and literally back on, so that'll give me access to the boot and all my tackle and not have to move too much. Okay, that's great. Let's just come down that slope there. As I say, this ground here is nice and hard and dry at the moment. Be careful after a lot of rain, it can get a little bit muddy and boggy there, especially over the back. And as you can see, this is the River Nene, and at the moment we've got quite a drop, so it'll be a while before I start fishing, but plenty of time to set everything up. And that one obviously stretches back there to Sutton Bridge where we've just come across, and then moving that way, that goes out into the wash. You've got a couple of lighthouses over there. That's the east bank over there. I don't believe there's any access over there for fishing. But just further along on this bank, you can see there's a building and a crane in the distance. Where that building is, there's a little car park and you can just hop over the wall. You can't actually directly park behind your peg, but you're only a matter of yards, so that's another little spot up there. Along this part here, you've got the main swim, which is literally directly at the bottom of the slope there. Then you've got one just to the right. So there is obviously a potential to squeeze in anywhere along this bank. You might have to just walk a little bit with your gear, which is not too bad though. Same along here, you can see there's more swims further along. Now these rocks have all been put on here to stop the bank erosion because it's really soft mud. Don't think they're going to cause a problem. I did see a video recently of someone getting snagged up on them, but I don't really see how you can do that. If you keep your rod high, you should be able to plane up across and miss all those. So yeah, the first thing I think is get the shelter up, get a nice bit of shade. At the moment the sun's in front of us, so I'm going to put it at a side angle, and as it moves around I can move the shelter. Okay, I started getting a few little bits out, and I've obviously got the shelter up. Luckily the sun's gone behind the clouds now and there's a nice cool breeze. Dog's tucked up in the back there, the bowl of water. So as you can see, I've now rigged up a couple of rods. I did bring with me my little Bass Pro Mark 1 rod this morning, feeling that it would be a little bit lighter in the tip for this type of venue. I thought that might be ideal. I've been using it for about a year and a half and never had a problem with it whatsoever, but this morning I've gone to put it together and the spigot of the tip section was really hard to get anywhere near fitting into the butt section. Whether the hot weather has made it sort of swell up a bit, I don't know. I had a couple of little attempts with it, but I didn't want to get it jammed in and have to drive home with that hanging out the window. So I've actually aborted that idea and I've had to get out one of the original Match Pro Mark 2s. I know it's a little bit heavy for this type of fishing, I would have thought. But what I'm going to do is dedicate that rod just for the Smoothound fishing, so it'll be bigger baits, probably a bigger lead on there, and I'll keep that one specifically for the Smoothounds and use the little Achios there for scratching around. Next thing I'm going to do now is get a few baits ready. Okay, here we are. So I've got about half a dozen peelers out to start defrosting. I've just mounted one there on a little 2.0 hook, a single hook as well, and it's got a little Arno bait stop slid up it. So it's on 20-pound amnesia, and as I say, it's around about 18 to 20 inches long, and it's going on a 2-foot pulley rig. prawns are defrosting. What I intend to do with them, as I said earlier, is thread them whole down the, pull a line through the middle of them, exit the head with a hook sticking out the back of the head, and then fish them on the same rod. On the other rod, I'm probably going to use tiny little pieces of peeler on size 4s. I've got a rig with size 6s on. I don't really want to go that low, but it's a question of, it might be the case of having to, with the, if it's targeting eels and flounders. We'll see how we go. I'm going to put this one out now and get baiting up the other rig. So, as advised by John, I've gone for rigs which are, so basically I've got 2 flapper rigs which are one below the weight and one above on one, and I've got a 3 hook flapper on the other, both fitted with size 4 Arno hooks. On the other rod, the bigger rod, I'm going to use a standard 6-ounce lead, and that's a 24-inch pulley on there. And today I'm going to do something a little bit different. So the baiting method I'm trying that is a bare hook link on 2 foot of line. I'm going to pull that through a prawn using a carp style baiting needle. So it's literally threaded through the centre of the prawn, 2/0 hook coming out near the head, and I'll just quickly tie that onto the swivel each time. I know it's a little bit of, it's not a speed method, but I'm not in any hurry today, it's pleasure fishing. So each time you have to rebait, you just nip off the snood, thread down another prawn or another crab bait, and then retie it, and you lose a minimum amount of line each time, and once it gets too short, you just change the hook link. So that is the idea of that. Baits today, I've got a few frozen crabs there. They're starting to thaw out. Underneath there I've got some prawns. In the cool box there I have got some more crab, and I've got a few other baits. I brought some razors just in case I could tip the rigs off for the flounders. Also got some blacks in there, but I have been told the blacks haven't been very successful here. They just attract the crabs, and they can be quite a problem here at times. So the main attack today is going to be with crab for both flounder, eels, and maybe a bass. And if we're really lucky, we might come in touch with a Smoothound. So you can see the levels already filling up quite quickly. And what I'm going to do is just put this a little bit up tide. Now, I've been told the best distance out to fish here is about 1/3. But I'm going to go just past that at the moment. And there's a channel in the middle apparently where the boats come down. So I'm going to aim for that mid channel. It is literally just an overhead lob, slightly upstream. That's just under halfway. Pay it out, it hits the bottom, give it a bit of slack, and we'll get that in the rest. And what I'm going to do with that one is set the drag like I normally do, just in case. Now the rod rest in this ground here is absolutely solid, because I'm able to push the front legs in 3 or 4 inches, and also the back spike has gone in at the full 6 inches. So that rod rest is going nowhere. So therefore I must make sure the butt is in that cup at the bottom there. It's locked into the spooligan gripper, and the ratchet is set. Now I can get on with baiting up the second rig. Okay, the little one up, one down flapper rig is baited, and as you can see, tiny little pieces of peeler on a size 4 that is. Same on the other hook, 2 small pieces of peeler. I'm now going to put that out on the other rod and try and fish upstream. I noticed the rod that I've already put out is already pulling well to the right. So as John explained to me, if the flow's too strong, bring it in a bit closer, only go 1/3 out until that tide eases off. So yeah, I'll just walk down a bit and then flick that maybe a bit closer. That's about 1/3. Feel it onto the bottom. And get that one in the rest. So, next thing to do is have a nice guzzle of drink. It is still very sort of humid and close. It's nice in that breeze. But as soon as I come this side of the shelter, which is where I've got the camera set up, it is quite humid. So So I've made sure the dog's got a big bowl of water there right next to her. She's happy. She's been out a few times, but she's more comfortable in the shade there. So she's got the option to come out in the breeze if she wants. Now it's a waiting game. So it's just gone 11. I wanted to be fishing by 11. And that gives me now a full 3 hours of the flood to the top of the tide. Targeting today, probably mainly flounders and eels. There is a chance of the odd bass. And there's a very outside chance of a Smoothound. So just quickly while we're waiting, I thought I'd show you this method that was shown to me recently about baiting up these raw king prawns. So what we've done there is, that's a carp baiting needle, and it's got a gated latch on the end. I've fed that right down the centre of the prawn and brought it out just behind the head there. And the idea then is, with your hook link, nothing on it at all, just the 2-0 hook. All I'm going to do is make a tiny little loop in the end of there, like that, and then slide that prawn back through the body, like that, keeping it straight till the line comes out the back of the prawn like that. Tease that all the way along, and what I'm going to do then is just offer the hook in, like that. So the hook's nice and proud. You can put a bit of elastic round there if you like, just to firm it up a bit. But the demonstration I see, they didn't do that. They just literally put it out like that. So that'd be the next bait to go out on the big rod. So this is what you actually get down here sometimes, is these big old fishing boats charging down. So if you are fishing out and right across, make sure you get your lines in, because they'll just take you out. A fisheries patrol vessel, that is. That's probably heading out somewhere into the wash. As I say, did you see by the flow, the rod tips now lifting up and down with the change of flow as that's gone through there. So I think it's about time I gave that left hand rod a check, because it did have a few little rattles on it earlier on. That's what I'm going to do now. Straight up off the bottom. Tiny little bit of scum on the leader, and we are clean as a whistle. So yeah, there's probably going to be crabs picking at these baits today. I might have to change them a little bit more often. Okay, I've got the next two baits on the flapper rig, or the one up and one down, and this time I've just tipped it off with a little bit of razor fish which I brought. I just found some mussels I put in there as well. That'll be something I'll experiment with today, just tipping these crab baits off with a little bit of mussel or razor. Once I've done this, I'll probably add the other rod in as well, because that's been out there a lot longer. But as I said, that's going to be basically a sleeper rod today. There we go. As before, just going to walk down a few paces just to give it a little bit of up tide, if you like, and then gentle little flick. Reel it down to the bottom. Goes down with a bit of a clonk, so I should imagine there is some rocks and things down there. Back to the rest. And what I'll do, I won't take that slack out, I'll let the tide do that. Well, that was dug down onto the bottom. But that's come straight out. A little bit of weed on that, and there's a flounder on there. Look. Well, there you go. and this took a 2-0. There we go. Nice little flounder. That's on the rig for the Smoothound, so just shows you. So there we are. One of the targets achieved for today. A nice little flounder. As I say, that took a 2-0 hook and it was nicely lip hooked. Obviously it couldn't get the whole thing in its mouth. But yeah, it's a promising start. So just as a matter of change, I'm going to lower that lightweight rod right down at a lower angle. Tiny little bits of weed on the line, nothing to worry about. Comes the leader, and what I'll try and do is just flip it off. Once it gets to the bottom of the rocks, just flip it up. Tiny little bit of stuff that all pings off nicely. And what I'll do is take the bait over there, take the rig over there and do a bait change. Right, 2 little black lug, and they're tipped with razor. Obviously, I think if I could have got hold of either some fresh lug or some fresh rag, it would have improved my chances greatly today, but I couldn't do that, so I had to raid the freezer. We'll see. I've been told black lug is like a magnet for the crabs. And as I said, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring the level of this right down. See if I can increase the bite sensitivity. The other one I'm reluctant to because it's set on the ratchet and obviously the butt cap's holding the rod. Well, there's a really nice breeze picked up now, which is taking the edge off because the clouds have cleared a bit, so the sun's come out quite bright, but in that breeze it's quite manageable. Still quite comfortable. So as I think I said on the way down, facilities here at the actual mark 0. There's nothing here at all. So, but all your food and drink needs and stuff like that, they're all back in the village of Sutton, and that's about 5 minutes away. I think there's a pub there, and I'm not sure if there's a cafe there, but there's definitely a pub. So if you were desperate for the toilet, that would have to be an option. So lowering the rod tips down hasn't made too much difference on the pull on the line. Sometimes when you lower the rod, especially on a beach, the tide picks it up more and it bends over and tends to pull the lead out easier. You tend to have the rod higher, so you have less line in the water. But here, it's not seemed to make much difference. They're still fairly both close in. I haven't tried banging one right across yet, because I was told it might be a job to hold tide the further across you go. Right, about time that right hand rod was changed or looked at. Thought I saw a few pulls in it earlier on, but I might be wrong. Off the bottom and keep it going. That's the secret. I had that left hand rod snagged up a little while ago and it feels like it's hooked up on tackle because it had like a good spring to it. And I pulled for a break and lost just the hook link, so it's not too bad. But bearing that in mind, I'm putting that one out a little bit further now. Yeah, that's completely stripped. I've got another whole prawn ready to go. Once you get it going, keep it going. Don't let it get low. That's it. When you get it to the edge, straight up and out. Still a little bit of bait on each one of those, but keep refreshing these baits here. I'm pretty sure there's crabs all over the shop. I'm not going to go quite as far this time. I went more or less down the middle last time with that. I'm going to try for that third of the way across mark. Somewhere about there. Bump. A little bit of slack. Right, time's ticking on. It's just gone 1 o'clock now. I did have a little pull on that right hand rod about 10 minutes ago. It hasn't developed into nothing. Could have been something bumping into the line going down the river. About 3/4 of an hour now to high tide. As I say, no proper bites as such. Left hand rod's got 2 small portions of crab on each hook. And I'm about to change the right hand rod for what was a whole prawn. And I've got another crab bait for that one. So let's get that done now. Ooh, get it off the bottom. That's it. That's quite dug in. But it comes up fairly easy. Right, what we got here? It does feel heavier than just the lead. No. As before, there's barely anything left of the prawn. More than was last time, to be fair, and that's still a good takeable bait. Just a little bit washed out. So, small crab bait really, what we normally use. That's probably why a flounder took a liking to it earlier on. Let's get that back in there now. Yeah, it's taking a little bit longer now as the extra depth obviously there. Into the rest, ratchet on. Drag off. And that's what's just come back, which is the whole prawn. So still a good effective bait. The hook's still proud lot. I think I said earlier that the height of the tide today was 5'8". It's not actually today. It's 5'2" today. I think I was told a 5'8" is the perfect tide. So it's a little bit smaller than the perfect tide. That's not to say it shouldn't fish still. Still rotating the baits. They've all got crab on now. The 2, one up, one down, has got 2 hooks baited with small pieces of crab, and I've got a large one on the pulley rig out in the middle. It is very convenient having anything laid out in the back of the car though. There's not many places you could do that. We've got a boat hurtling down the middle of the river now. It's another little fisheries vessel of some description. I'll wait until that's gone through. I'm just coming out to stand by the rods because I just noticed there's another that fisheries support vessel thing is now motoring back just this side of the middle. And it shouldn't affect my gear, but best be on the safe side. Looking at the angle and the depth here, that my rods should miss that. No, that'll be easily missing my rods. If you had them up high with a line stretched across the river, it might be a different story. I think it's always best to stand by your rods when something like this comes through. You never know. It's the worst case scenario is I can grab both rods and it can just cut me off. Won't lose 2 rods and reels. But no, that's fine. You'll actually see the rods start dancing around in a minute as the pressure of the waves. I'm definitely going to come back and try this on a more overcast and sort of fishing friendly day. No, that went slack, and a couple of pulls as well, so I don't know what that was. What was that whole prawn? Now, false alarm, it was definitely a bite. I see the line had gone, the line slackened right off. It wasn't no pull down and slack, the line just suddenly slackened off. And as I was talking to you, a couple of little nods on it. When I first picked it up, it did feel heavy, but it weren't nothing there. That was on a whole prawn threaded up the line. And I think I've just had my first proper bite on that right hand rod. I just took a telephone call from John Spalton and was finding out how I was getting on. And he was saying that these hounds, they move up and down here, and perhaps not this time of year, you get the odd one, but August, September, they come through here sometimes in big packs. He said if they do come through, you should find an hour and a half later to go back the other way, back out to sea. But what happened was I was on the phone to him and I had the line just suddenly dropped slack. Didn't have any pull down initially, but then it did tighten up twice and just tapped twice. So I picked the rod up, reeled down to the bait, nothing there. The prawn was still fairly well intact. So maybe that single hook at one end of the bait is not the way to go. If you'd have had 2 hooks in there, pennelled up, maybe it would have hooked up, don't know. May have just been crabs, but it was a good strong pull down and a slack. So my suspicion is it was a fish of some description. And for having a bait that big, the culprit I would assume would have been a hound. Well, the time's drifting on now, folks. The sun is out in full effect. I'm probably going to give it one more bait change on each rod. As I said before, we've been up and over the high now, and that's even at the slack. I wasn't seeing any bites or anything. Definitely crab activity, because if you leave that flapper rig in any longer than 15 minutes, it comes back absolutely clean. The other rod at the moment's got a full-size raw prawn out, and the last one I brought back, although it was intact, the one before that, that was literally gone. Just a tail left on it. So be mindful of the crabs. I'd be interested to come back and try this on an overcast, cooler day. And what I would probably consider is bring in some lighter rods as well. I think these are much too heavy for this. I've got a pair of Conti rods at home, which are up to 6 ounces, but really fine quiver tips. I think they might be the way to go next time. So as I say, I'm going to do one more bait change and then probably wrap up and head for home. Thank you very much for watching. It hasn't been a fish fest, but it does prove there is the odd flounder and that still willing to feed in these conditions. I'm very surprised I haven't had no eels. Then again, that's probably a good thing. You know what they're like. So yeah, see you next time. Thank you.